evening, ladies and gentlemen. We are back once more with the World Championship Series Jönköping. Here it is getting nice and late in Sweden, but the sun does not set at this time of the year, and neither has it on the matches just yet. I'm Nathaniel, joined on the desk by two of my favorite people in the whole wide world. It's Todd and Maynard, two people that are extremely professional, well-dressed. How are you doing? You enjoying the game so far, Maynard?
I have been having a blast, man. There's actually been in pretty incredible ZVZs, one of the best ZVZs I've ever seen. Some pretty incredible TVT. I mean, my series were a little bit more one-sided that I got to cast, but I do tend to have that curse. My best of fives tend to have 3 zeros. But, so I apologize to the players in that regard, but they were pretty entertaining. It's been good.
Maynard cursed the players.
I did,
How about you, Todd?
Well, I cast the ZVZ, man, the most epic ZVZ I've seen in a while with Cham against Snoot. If you guys missed that, make sure to check it out. Those games are absolutely insane, and I even tweeted that day. These series epitomizes why StarCraft is my favorite game.
All right.
Wow.
We have another couple of awesome players people have been looking forward to seeing this weekend. We've got Smix in the tournament area for SortOf versus Neeb, the American Hope. Smix.
Definitely, I'm very, very excited because, as you mentioned, we have one of 2 Protoss players that Neeb coming up next, and as you also mentioned, he is an American, and you and I are both American, so we need to root extra hard.
We need to bring that USA flair to Sweden with us.
Exactly. And I'm also excited for this because SortOf was one of those players that was very, very hyped last year as, this mechanical god. He was supposed to have a breakthrough performance at I believe DreamHack Valencia, and then things kind of fell through because I think Marine Lord was just crushing people left and right at the time. But that being said, this should be interesting because the big question here is, are we going to see the mechanical god come back, or is Neeb, the WCS Austin champion, gonna stop him in his tracks? What do you think?
Be careful, Sue. Every time you say mechanical, the Twitch chat is going to be spamming Ricard Mechanics Bergman.
I was going to say that it's a dangerous thing for the auto moderation on the stream. There's some great copy pasta out there about Ricard Mechanics Bergman. On the other side, of course, is Neeb, who caused a similar wave of spam of USA in the chat, and Neeb, as his fans in America like to cheer for him. Obviously one of the most popular players. He won WCS Austin, had an amazing performance, and is just looking to keep on rolling on.
Yeah, he is the WCS reigning champion. We have more portraits to fill in those 4 spots that we see who is going to be the champion for these upcoming events. It's going to be pretty interesting. I would love to see a repeat performance from Neeb, but he does have the odds stacked up against him this time, I feel.
Yeah, he has a good winning record against SortOf. The 2 times that they've made so far this year, he was able to win, but Neeb has shown as of late that he's struggling a little bit more against Zerg. He did lose to Scarlet in the Challenger here for this very tournament in the Grand Finals, and he's looked mortal in the matchup, as have many other Protosses. Now in this tournament so far, he did beat TLO twice, so it definitely did pretty good in the matchup, but SortOf is, like we say, he's the mechanical gods, and the same could be said about Neeb. It's a very interesting matchup in that regard because they're both so good mechanically. I feel like for SortOf, though, if he's willing to take it to the late game and just kind of let the mechanics speak, as well as Zerg is doing right now, he might be in real danger here against a Neeb who's just so solid in the late game.
I think it's safe to say that a lot of Neeb's strengths come from playing out those extended macro games. We don't know him as a cheeser per se. He has some very sharp 2-base timings, but a lot of the maps that get taken off of him seem to be off of these quirky, aggressive plays. So going for the mechanics strategy could be a little bit dangerous. Do you have a particular opinion on the PVZ matchup? We talked about it getting into this tournament. Everybody mentioned it. Protoss struggling a little bit versus Zerg on this map pool, as we do have the vetoes coming out. But it seems like we've seen quite a few Protoss fight back against that. My mind immediately goes to Drogo with that 3-0 winning on Blood Boil against Nurchio.
Yeah, Drogo just played incredible, and maybe Nurchio wasn't having the best day. We also saw a little bit of unconventional map vetoes or picks at times. This is the most basic map vetoes, and Blood Boil being removed by Protoss makes absolute perfect sense. It was either going to be that or Defender's Landing, but Blood Boil usually the one that Protosses will remove, and then for SortOf to remove Abyssal Reef. Roti touched on that a little bit earlier. It's also one of the maps where you're not the most unhappy about ZvP, but at the same time, it's probably the best for Protoss in the current meta, where they're most happy with. So to take that away from them is definitely nice. Oh man,
that vote though.
A lot of hashtag Neeb.
There's a lot of people cheering for Neeb.
They're Neebing.
They are neebing very hard, and we will see how hard Neeb neebs as we jump into this series. For this PvZ, you're watching WCS Jönköping. Let's go to Neeb versus SortOf.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to get right into this Protoss versus Zerg between the American Neeb and the Swede hunk of sex appeal that is SortOf.
Yeah, he's made quite the change over the last year, and he's a stunning man right there.
Dude,
great posture as well. I haven't sat like that in 29 years, Jeff.
Yeah, no, of course not. With the weight of esports on our shoulders and our grizzled old bones getting weighed down. That picture, I guess production can't do this, but if you guys could, if you see that picture of him again with like perfect golden curly hair, it's like, God, it's not fair in Sweden, by the way. It just isn't. There's something in the water. It's okay, but we're going to get into the game. I'm actually going to do something I almost never do, and I'm going to introduce the players in the lower right-hand side from America wearing the red that Reagan bore on his undergarments. It is Neeb. And I'll tell you what, the camera quality is getting way too good here because they're zooming in on these nerds in this hot Sweden summer day, and I'm like, look, that's not fair, it's not nice. But someone you could zoom in on and you'd see nothing but straight Swedish sex appeal. It's the blue Zerg in the top left-hand side from a team, I'm not sure if he's on one, it's SortOf.
I love it, Jeff. I wish you could just introduce every single player from now on. You know, imagine the Nathanias announcer pack, but you do the intros.
Oh, wow. I mean, you had me at imagine a Nathanias announcer pack. Isn't it weird that, like, for those kind of things, usually you have to wait till December 25th once a year, but for us StarCraft fans, it's this coming Tuesday. Ladies and gentlemen, the voice announcer pack for Nathanias will come out. And now, for a lot of you, if you've missed this, normally you have to tune into his stream, play StarCraft for about 1 to 2 hours, then it goes to a PUBG game. But if you catch that 1 to 2 hour golden moment of time, man, we're talking some good stuff. Now you can just have it on your StarCraft all the time.
It's amazing. StarCraft Summer Sale and Nathanias on sale.
What is that?
Life really doesn't get much better than this. All right, let's talk some PvZ. This is obviously going to be an awesome best of 5. I've been looking forward to this one all day long. You know, I'd like to make some funny comments about the ZvZs, but Champ versus Snoot actually had me screaming out loud. That was amazing. But this is a series I was really looking forward to. Of course, Neeb is our reigning champion of WCS Austin, but SortOf is Mr. Mechanics himself. ZvP is in a good state for him right now. He always loved, do you remember, like even 2016, SortOf was already that kind of Ling Bane player, and now it's just so much better. The maps are more wide open. I remember him playing against Neeb, trying 100 run-bys on New Gettysburg. I think maybe we casted that game even. Yep. And that eventually just didn't really work because New Gettysburg's like, well, that was pretty good for Protoss. This map should really be a lot better. And he's also the last Swedish hope in the tournament after Namchar fell against the incredible good-looking Dutchman, Uthermal.
Yeah, it's kind of an interesting scene going on right now. Sweden has always been one of the powerhouse StarCraft places. And it certainly is not that they've fallen off per se, but it's like the new generation has really taken the reins. You don't even have the guys like, it used to be some of the old guys would still show up to do the, you know, European, Swedish championship or whatever, and win big globs of money. Even those guys are really gone. It's a lot of these new guys, Namshur and SortOf, and it's going to be it's interesting to see this one because again the hype, you saw the voting, 74% for Neeb. It's a lot closer than that, guys.
Yeah, absolutely. I really think this is a toss-up. It depends a little bit how Neeb is going to play. I think Neeb is going to show us a lot of variety in this series as well. And you know, sometimes if you're not that into StarCraft, you may think like it always looks the same, right? Like it's like, oh, he gets Immortals and Archons, but the way you get there, that is everything when it comes to StarCraft 2. And for instance, here we see Neeb opening up with Resonating Glaives. This was incredibly standard a year ago. Wow, he's doing it both. He's going Resonating Glaives, but he's also dropping a Dark Shrine. That's quite interesting, unless he would somehow cancel Glaives and it's a big fake and he hopes that SortOf scouts it. But interesting opening over here by Neeb.
Yeah, could end up just being that Archon drop with the kind of DT opening, or as you said, with the Glaives, it could actually be something entirely different. I actually kind of like where we're going with this from Neeb. This is at least the beginnings of a cookie-cutter opener. but he's giving himself the option to do some offshoot stuff. And in a best of 5, you can do that a little bit more. In a best of 3, not so much. You can take those risks, of course, but there's just such a bigger opening for that to fall on your face. But in a best of 5, an all-in has a place. Even if it doesn't work, it kind of throws some question marks at your opponent for a while.
And Jeff, I know that you're happy to see this because this happens to us as well. And like you said this many times, and I'm totally in touch with that emotion where you cast these pro games and it's like they're going for a Dark Shrine. And this best Zerg in Europe somehow does not scout it, while every NA Zerg with 5200 MMR has 4 Overlords with speed in your base. They see everything. Well, sort of saw everything, but this is still something you can't just assume you know exactly what's going on, because this is a unique build. This is not something we see super often. It's an Archon push with adepts and resonating glaives. Bizarre. This is, I mean, I'm not saying we've never seen this before, but this is not common. That's a lot of adepts as well.
Transitional third behind this.
What
as
a
well.
sort of
not even a super mega all in. He's going to push up here. It is just going to be the Lings. The Archon super catching him off guard, though. And he's going to have, well, I could have taken the ramp, which would have been an amazing angle there. The Queens are going to be the front line here. They're coming down, targeting that War Prism, but the Lings just not great behind this.
Nope, and the War Prism is a very safe spot as well. One of the Archons can get picked up, of course, into the Prism. All these Lings just disappeared. And this could very well be it for game number 1.
Absolutely. He's going to just go ahead and just jump on top of the Queens. That's going to do it. Even pulling back that Archon. Lings trying to fight with the game. GG's called. SortOf's out in game number 1. And I love it, Kevin. I mean, yes. So we look at this on paper. We're just like, man, you weren't prepared. You scouted it. Here's what happened, though. I think he didn't respect the Resonating Glaives if he saw it at all. He said, this is going to be a harass Archon opening. I'm not worried about it. But man, what a difference those 8 Adepts with the Glaives behind the Archons make.
I actually think if that's just like 4 or 5 Zealots, I actually think with the 4 Queens, the 5 Queens, and the Lings, SortOf has enough. SortOf is probably just like, what on earth was that? You know, I opened up with Overlord speed. I'm supposed to see everything. This could be very well one of those cases where he saw it, but did he really put the pieces together? This is uncommon, guys. I mean, Glaives opening, very common. Adept, you know, excuse me, Archon drop opening, we've seen it 1,000 times. Doing it both at the same time while not being 100% all in. Very unique timing there by Neeb in between. I want to see how many units Neeb lost in that game because I feel that, well, what did he lose in Adept?
Maybe. But there's so much going on here, Kevin, that I'm so in love with what we just saw. So, like, Neeb is your front runner. This is a guy everyone's studying his builds. They've been watching his ladder profiles. Everyone knows Neeb, including SortOf. So for Neeb to go into this first game and shake things up a little bit, take a little bit of a risk, get a little bit greedy, because again, there was a third Nexus behind this. He was literally just all over the place. Is really cool. SortOf, he lost 1 unit. SortOf is a mechanical monster. One of the best ways to throw off someone that's just all about rhythm and muscle memory is to make them have to think for the rest of the series. Really cool stuff from Neeb here.
That is just crazy. Neeb takes game number 1, killing 37 units, and he lost 1. Well, could have been a scouting probe, could have been an adept, maybe that very first adept, whatever it was. What a way to start a best of 5. Neeb has to feel very good about this. And SortOf is probably just wondering, like, what just hit me? You know, that's Eagles sucker punched by Protoss.
What a cool first game, Kevin. But what if I told you, too, like, even off of this first game, we're only a few days away from getting that Nathanius voice pack for ourselves as well. Like that was a cool game, but the fact that we can double down on this for a $7 purchase off that Battle.net launcher, add it to your Abathur, add it to your Diva, and just have that accessible. Or you know what? Sometimes I'm feeling a little bit of tastosis, but when I'm not, I dial it back to Nathanius again.
I'm just happy you brought it up there because I really don't think we mentioned it yet
has
today.
not been mentioned.
No, and that's a shame. It's important that Nate gets his moment of fame as well.
Yeah.
Let's go ahead and jump into game number 2 that is going to be played on Proxima as we're looking at the main base of our American Protoss. Killed 37 units, lost 1. It's Neeb.
And his opponents looking a little bit frazzled, needing maybe that home crowd advantage. Coming out of Sweden, it is SortOf. All right, you hear some woos in there. I don't know if you guys heard that at home, but there are. And again, later when they show his profile pic, my God.
What a man.
He's a handsome devil, that one.
You know, in the old days, we used to always talk about Matt Frog, because Matt Frog was
Yeah, he's
a Swedish Warcraft player who was simply...
he was here earlier.
Yes, I know.
Still handsome.
Yeah, 10 years later, you know.
Hasn't lost it.
No. Still looks like a young
Yeah.
Swedish god. And yeah, like you said, there is something special in the water over
We
here.
had we had this funny moment. I'm going to share it with the audience. We were driving to this venue in the morning, and we went past the beach, and I kid you not, there was probably 60 to 70 young Chopinians of the Sweden descent out there doing hot yoga together, and I had this weird fat American surreal moment where I'm like, you know what I've never seen back at home? Is 70 Americans shirtless doing yoga by the beach. It just doesn't happen. But somehow in perfect Sweden, it was like so completely like exactly what I should have seen. They probably later did like a human pyramid where they bench pressed each other up into the sky.
That's not the only thing. Then we entered DreamHack, and there was the most handsome security guard of all time, who looked like he served the army for 35 years, and he was overly happy.
Yeah.
Taka, taka.
Really weird here, guys. Really surreal.
What a country.
There was also Carnival a couple days ago, which is a high school graduation ceremony where everyone is celebrating, and the kids just dress as sailors, or as Stefano called it,
The Captain
Hat.
The Captain Hat event.
The Captain Hat event is what he called it. They go through the streets playing loud music and being obnoxious. Of course, we just call that high school in America, but that's what happens when they graduate here in Sweden. Anyways, enough about Sweden. Well, it's never enough about Sweden, but for right now, getting into the match, this is also another map that Protosses are happy to go to in this map pool.
Yep. No, absolutely. I mean, we saw Abyssal Reef being vetoed. A couple of Zergs out there would definitely veto Proxima, but there are a few that just prefer this map over Abyssal because Abyssal just has too many choke points, and it often comes down to that, you know, fight at the fort base, and they feel that if Protoss can just hang in there a little bit longer, Archon, Storm, it's going to be harder on Proxima to secure your fort than it is on Abyssal. Now, Neeb is switching it up. This is kind of what we expected, right? A lot of different openings in the beginning of this series.
Ooh, nice.
It doesn't take too much damage there, but it's going to be a very fast Oracle. Whenever Neeb does this, he always delays his Mothership Core. And for the people at home, it's like, why would you delay the Mothership Core? It's such a good unit. It is, but if you're building a Mothership Core early on, you're not building probes. And at this level, 2-3 workers can make a difference.
And also, I think he does a second Oracle a lot of times as well. He has some of that premier Oracle use. There's actually going to be a Phoenix behind this. Okay, so maybe Hunt.
That is that always makes my alarm bells go off a little bit, because most of the time it's double Oracle into, you know, eventually Archons, Immortals. I feel if it's one Oracle Phoenix, it's almost like, what are you hiding, or what are you trying to hide? But it could also just be, you know, in case of a Dropper Lord or stuff like that. But this is something that we definitely have to keep a close eye on the production tab of Neeb, because one Oracle into Phoenix is not something we see him do super often.
Not super often. I do think the double Oracle is the norm, but I've definitely seen this from him as well. And there is that second Oracle, so it is just to shut down some information. Okay. Stasis Ward here grabs some random assortment of things. Just a little delay tactic. SortOf did scout this out and is just in position with the Queens to go ahead and deny it. But I do like this from Neeb. So Neeb starts off the first game with an offbeat, I'm all over the place kind of thing, throws off SortOf. Second game follows it up with his absolutely standard play, very strong map.
I'm actually a little bit worried already. These are 5 adapts. They may not have resonating glaives, but that means that this attack hits even faster. SortOf, one of his overlords was delayed quite a bit. A couple of these Cryptomers are going to get picked off. If Neeb goes all the way in here with 2 Oracles as well, SortOf doesn't have a lot of Zerglings at all. This could get very ugly again for our Swedish Zerg.
Yeah, he's going to join up here at the top with the Oracles. Pick up one Queen. Second Queen's just offering herself up, getting to that mineral line, trying to do some big damage here. Some Lings going to trickle in here, but there's just not that much. Now shading towards the natural, and the Oracles are going to bail out for 0 losses. Great moves here from Neeb.
This is ridiculous. We feel like we're watching 2016 Neeb stomp his fellow American Zerg, because that's pretty much how all these games look. He makes it look easy. Neeb already, again, in a very sweet position here. Still ahead when it comes to the work department, going up to 3 bases. Really hasn't lost anything yet. Can we take a look at the units lost step so far?
Whoa.
Yeah, I mean...
Nothing.
That's 2 Queens and 2 Overlords. That's normally not that easy to get. And these Oracles still alive as well. Neeb normally is an absolute master in keeping those Oracles alive forever. Being annoying with Stasis Wards and the Revelation, of course.
So some losses suffered early for SortOf, but don't count them out just yet. It hasn't been absolutely massive. A Zerg can absorb the loss of a Queen or 2, but The momentum is definitely in Neeb's corner. He's kind of sequestered off his corner. He's allowing himself to do things without too much scouting going on. His third never got touched, and that's always kind of a bad sign for SortOf. Also, no real fourth just yet, right?
Nope.
None at all, in fact, and that's going to be a mounting issue as it goes on.
Yeah, it's probably going to go for the gold since he's knocking down those rocks. I have the idea that SortOf just wants to get the gold and then perhaps eventually get a ridiculous amount of Zerglings and Banelings and try to bust Neeb when Neeb is going to go up to 4 bases. But look at Neeb getting a Warp Prism into the main, immediately warping in 5 additional units. He's going to let all of these Zealots finish up. And since there are no Banelings in place, well, there they are. They're still a little bit slow. It's kind of annoying to deal with.
Yep.
Good pickup as well.
It's just inexpensive harass. Yes, he's trading out minerals for mostly lings here, but even those, I think it was 3 or 4 Banelings, that is a gas cost against the Zerg. The other nice thing about doing Warp Prism harass is it informs you on what you're facing.
I mean, I want to quote Todd here. I mean, look at this supply. Like this is not normal. You know, Protoss being up 20 supply in this phase in the game. Then you just know this has been a pretty clean early game. Of course, this is that point in the game where SortOf is really going to produce a lot of Hydras, a lot of Banelings. But look at Neeb. He wants to move out. He wants to try to get a cancel or kill on that 4th base. And if he gets that, that is incredibly bad news bear for SortOf.
I feel like there's look at the supply, and then Kevin, there's look at the supply.
Look at the stuff.
Supply.
Yeah. I have to
push forward. Oh, a little bit of a stasis ward kind of minefield. A couple of slow queens going to get shot down there as well. The Warp Prism is below the natural, so it's not able to reinforce just there, but oh wow, a huge attack going on in 2 places. We have some harass there, but a huge swell of Zerglings do get around this. He's not able to recall out. Nice move by SortOf. He's going to pick off this army, and it is expensive.
Yep, I mean, losing the gold obviously hurts. Losing a couple of drones in the back of the natural hurts as well, but at least SortOf was able to pick up a lot of those expensive units. This Hydra then is taking a lot of damage. Muscular Rockmans ain't done yet. He should have gone for it. He's not going to get it because he's not going for it.
Well, I mean, he's going to protect it. I said that kind of weird, but yeah, he does end up targeting the drones, and if you look, just a casual 11 drones do die. I heard you say this in your previous broadcast. When a Zerg's on like 50 drones, it's actually never a good thing unless they're on like 1 base, I guess. Then it's great.
A couple of stasis wards as well. How many units does Neeb have at home? He should have had some time to warp in a couple of additional Archons, right? Well, that's actually the first Archon. That is a well-protected
stasis wards, though.
Yeah, obviously the mothership won't have that much energy. Yeah, 21 Hydras could potentially do the job, but the Warp Prism is just being a nuisance for SortOf to deal with.
And the issue here is a lot of Zergs would throw down the Spire to just get rid of that thing, but SortOf can't afford it. He had his 4th base destroyed. That's not a great stasis ward, so good job tripping it off by here. You know what? The game's here, Kevin. I'm not even going to talk about the other scenarios. This attack right here has to work.
Yep, I 100% agree. SortOf had enough. He knows he's going to lose even more at home if more Zealots are being wiped in. He feels if I'm ever going to win this game, it's with this Hydra force before there are too many Storms out. Zealots coming in from the right side.
And here come the Banelings. They're going to go ahead and connect with those Zealots. It's just the Immortals. Immortals are strong. They have a decent angle. The reinforcements are SortOf not numerous, by the way, and I feel like it's just a numbers game. There's just too much Protoss.
Yep, a couple of Zealots are going to run in 1 by 1, though. The Immortals a little bit late to the party, but where are the reinforcements?
He can't afford it. He's dealing with the Warp Prism in the background. We didn't get an Ion shot of it. You'll just have to trust me, but there's just been a lot of... He's just been paying attention to it, I guess.
Oh, the Spore Crown. If this Prism falls, that would actually be really bad for Neeb, but it's not going to fall yet. But I mean, that 4th base is up, so every warping is going to be massive. Now we have an Archon in the mix as well. Obviously, barriers will be up again on these Immortals.
I mean, the double Immortal that's going on here. They're just packing such a punch. And again, that age-old thing. We used to say at what cost. Now, after the Todd regiment, we say, look at the frickin' supply. 30 up for Neeb, and it has been the whole time. So I feel like this is just, there was a moment there where SortOf Neeb had to make a mistake. He had to commit to a fight that he couldn't win or something, but he never did that, showing great patience.
I think maybe there was one moment where SortOf could have killed the extra Archon and the Immortal in the middle of the map, but would that have really made the difference? This is kind of awkward for Neeb because a lot of his units just have very short range. But Neeb is on 4 bases. He knows he doesn't have to move out. He doesn't have to take a bad fight.
Look at the lings behind this attack, though. It's actually really good that Neeb didn't try to commit to that because, as you said, he's going to win this fight, but if he makes a mistake, that's where he could potentially lose. And the Hydra's got a good concave, but a lack of support. He comes in onto that choke point, and again, in the background, the Zealots being so annoying. It's just too much Protoss. They're rocking a huge income as that 4th base continues to mine. it's looking okay for SortOf, but there's just nothing, there's no oomph behind it, Kevin.
Yep, and the extra reinforcements for Neeb there should be enough. The Oracles still have a lot of energy as well. The Immortals just have too much HP. All these Hydras will die, and I think that's going to be it. I think Neeb is going to take a 2-0 lead here after just playing incredibly clean both games early on.
And we've seen kind of different forms of Neeb. You know, whenever we watch these top players, they have their ups and downs. This is an up Neeb right now.
Yeah.
So far in this series, he's been in the driver's seat the entire time. SortOf's going to hold on here. He's got the heart of a lion. He needs to. Falling back 0-2 against a player like Neeb is almost certain death. But let's face it, the supply is not in his favor. Chi-Chi's called out, and the Swedish Zerg goes down 0-2 against Neeb.
Wow, both games. I mean, the first game literally ended the first time Neeb put down with his Archons and Adepts with Glaze. But even in the second game, those 5 Adepts all staying alive as well. The 2 Oracles picking up all those Queens. And then obviously the first Warp in as well. Incredibly clean play by Neeb. He's just putting on the clinic of how to still win PvZ.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, again, I think kind of one of the funny, weird subtext that might be going on here is people are like, yeah, Neeb should beat a SortOf. Well, guys, again, SortOf is actually rising up as one of the strong upper tier 2, if not like lower absolute tier 1 Zergs in Europe. And I only say that because Europe has an amazing Zerg scene. Like their Zerg players are actually very good. Spawned some of the biggest mega superstars we've had, like Stefano. SortOf has been around, and he has been kind of poking at that tier, trying to make his way up there. But right now, he is being shown kind of a clinical display of PvZ. He's had no chance last 2 games.
Next map is going to be played on Ascension 2 Ire, a very wide open map, a large map as well that should not catch SortOf off guard that early on, because it takes a little bit longer for Protoss to make your way to the other side of the map. It should not go undetected pretty much ever. It's just weird that SortOf keeps getting incredibly surprised by the very first move out, while he's a player that normally always has a couple of links out on the map, gets Overlord speed as well. He's playing tiny bit too greedy, perhaps almost has too much respect for Neeb.
Yes.
He's like, I'm playing as Neeb. Neeb is incredibly good, making as many drones as I can, trying to get a little bit ahead, and then before he's really in the game, he's out of it.
That's always been a little bit of a criticism against SortOf. Kind of almost like the old Team Liquid Zerg, a fellow Dutchman of yours, Rhett. Amazing Zerg, great talent, but one of the things that kind of plagued him throughout his career was sometimes a little bit too greedy. SortOf is that mechanical monster, wants to get to that mid stage where then it's all about Hydraling, Baneling, and just reinforcing, hitting your injects. If he can get there in a healthy state, he's going to beat most players. But so far, as you said, he's been a little bit too greedy, not really catching on to the shenanigans of Neeb, and it's been costing him.
Yep, just not respecting the early move-outs of this man that's spawning in the right bottom side. Representing Ting, he's our reigning champion of WCS. It is Neeb.
Mr. Pouty Face. That's his thing. You know how a lot of players have tics? If you watch Neeb very closely, sometimes while he's asleep, I do both, he does the pouty lip. Kind of pushes out that lower lip a little bit. It's very interesting. But his opponent, in the top left-hand side, from Sweden, trailing 0-2, needing your support, it's SortOf.
You know, Jeff, every now and then I play a game that I'm really proud of myself, and I'm like, you know what, that was awesome. I'm going to look a little narcissistic, my own VOD.
Sure.
Because...
The Muslim replay announcement.
Yes, but then, you know, by yourself, after the stream is done.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this is going to be badass. And then I look at myself, and I'm so focused that my jaw drops, and I'm just sitting there with an open mouth for like 25 minutes, and I look incredibly silly. I'm like, man, this was so much cooler in my mind, you know? In my mind, I was this superstar that was all over the place, and then you look at the VOD, and you see somebody sitting there with his mouth open for 20 minutes. I'm like, man.
Oh, my God.
I just don't have it anymore, Jeff.
Kevin, I actually know exactly what you're talking about. A lot of people have that moment where they don't look very good. They look kind of silly, but one of the ways you can kind of get over that is for an easy purchase of $6.99 coming this Tuesday, available on the Battle.net launcher, is going to be a voice announcer pack from our very own Munchkin, Nathanius. And I'll tell you what, it's so incredible because to go from Tastosis, which was like so clear and obvious, and a lot of people would be like, well, maybe it's day 9, it's Husky. Who do we go to next? No. They go down into the market streets. They go down into the gutter, and they find the blue-collar commentator himself, Nathanius. And they give him a voice pack. They literally, like, think of it, they give him a voice, Kevin. It's so much more than what people think it is.
From Scranton, Pennsylvania to Hollywood. We've done it all.
he's talking about. He's going to be accredited in the game of StarCraft. Isn't that amazing? And not as a critter, which they also gave to Tastos.
All right, the first step is being chrono boosted out over here by Neeb. Let's see how he opens up this time. Once again, Ascension to Ire is a larger map. It really takes a little bit longer for your units to make their way across the map. So we see the Stargate over here as first. There's a good chance that it's going to be very similar to what we saw before. I just cannot imagine that SortOf will be caught off guard again. I mean, SortOf is too good for this, guys. I mean, you know,
Really?
Tasteless would, since we're talking about Tasteless, Tasteless would call this series a little bit of a bop so far, right? Like, yeah, right?
Yes, you're right.
That's what Tasteless would say. And that's not supposed to happen. Yes, Neeb is our reigning champ, but SortOf is incredibly good.
Yeah.
And he's just, you know, he's falling too far behind early on. As long as he gets himself in a decent stage when he has like 60 so or drones, and he's not behind, I really think this can still become a competitive series. But obviously, so far, it's not been going well.
I don't necessarily disagree with you, and I'm hoping. The fan in me wants to see not a 3-0, but a 3-2, something intense and awesome, like we had with that Cham series.
Yeah, that was awesome.
But what's working against him is Neeb has been he's been changing things up, and he's also been like taking advantage of the slight mistakes that SortOf makes. That has to wreak havoc on your mind. Now, that being said, Kevin, catching this right here, a nice pick-me-up for SortOf.
This is already better than the previous 2 games combined.
He killed more than he ever did in the first game, actually, right there.
Yep. No, it's 100% true, Jeff. He got 2 and
It's actually twice as
twice as much. So he's on a little bit of a roll.
Moving on up in the world, guys.
No, Sport Crawlers are in time as well. A couple of Lings being put in position, so he knows when Neeb is going to try to go up to 3 bases. Queens are well positioned as well. This is the type of play we expect from somebody as good as SortOf. And this time, I think that Neeb has his work cut out for him because he's not incredibly far ahead after the first minutes.
There is that second Oracle, though, and Neeb in this form, man. His Oracles just do stuff that, by the way, mine just flat out don't. It's like a skin thing or some kind of, I don't know.
Announcer pack, maybe?
Announcer pack, latency thing. There's something going on there. He is going to follow it up with that Phoenix. That so far doesn't necessarily mean he'll do a flock of Phoenix. It could just be the 1 or 2 to grab the Overlord.
It's kind of like the Polt Viking of Protoss.
Yeah. Yeah, just go ahead and get the couple of Overlords. Yep. I like it, though. That goes all the way back to Brood War. People made Wraiths to kill Overlords there as well. I know because I wrote down the name of every Terran that did that to me. And now,
I have no idea what you're talking about, but maybe soon I will finally get those jokes with StarCraft Remastered.
Hey!
What a summer,
Coming
Jeff.
this summer.
Will Nate be in that game as well?
No. No, not, no, they didn't do a voice pack for that one.
Not yet.
But maybe, maybe with the success, and if everyone jumps on board and buys it Tuesday on the Battle.net launcher, or picks up StarCraft 2 at 50% off.
You know, Jeff, I just hope that when I grow old, I've got friends as good as us that Nate has, you know. Look at how... This is the best promo this boy could ever hope for.
Absolutely. I actually just thought of something. What if, and I'm just spitballing here, but what if Blizzard had Mike Morheim stream a Terran game
with Nate,
with Nate's voice pack on Tuesday? you know Mike plays. He's out there. I actually asked him. I said, you know, because he ladders. I said, and he obviously doesn't play on like Mike Morheim. He just plays on some name. I was like, you ever been BM'd? And he was like, yeah, there's some salty people out there. Can you imagine?
Yeah, that's amazing. So get a life.
This is a stupid game. You're an idiot and I hate you. And he's like, well, are you liking StarCraft at all? Not at all. Don't enjoy it. He's like, well, that hurts personally. He's like, did you like Warcraft? No. I'm a Lost Vikings guy.
Oh, yeah, no cancel actually on that gateway. Neeb taking a little bit of damage, but the SortOf work count is still a little bit on the low side. This reminds me a tiny bit of what True showed us last week in Challenger, where you just go pure Hydro Link, even though there are 7 Banes, of course, on the production tab.
He might be tunnel vision. He just wants to end it right here.
Yeah, but this is a commitment. I mean, this is something that some of the European Zergs were talking about. This is the way they like to hit their Hydra Bane timing.
Yeah.
You don't go to 67 drones, 4 bases. You do it a little faster. You do it off.
What is that placement?
I don't know.
What goes there? What is...
Maybe the Hydras eventually. War Prism.
That would be the most mind-tilting ever stasis ward if that hits. We have Lings outside the natural. He's looking to poke in. Hydra's trying to use their range here. He's going to drop behind the middle line. And as Kevin pointed out, there's not a lot of drones. This is a lot of damage.
Wow.
A lot. Okay, grabs the Lings there.
That's a lot of Zerglings, actually. A couple of good force fields by Neeb here as well. I like the position of
the Bangs
Neeb.
are just locked out behind.
Wow, this is not looking good at all for SortOf. I mean, it could perhaps still...
gateways.
It depends a lot on these mainline connections. They need to be fantastic. Good overcharges as well.
Oh my God.
These pylons are doing so much damage.
Neeb with the supply advantage. Here comes those Lings. They've been stasis ward forever. And now in comes the Oracle's help clean up. The third is not mining. This could be it for SortOf. His attack is drying up. There's even Immortal joining this. War Prism moving over to maybe speed up some of these units. It's going to get targeted down, but even that pulls back. Everything is going wrong. GG is called out. And SortOf is 3-0, Kevin.
What a masterclass of PvZ in this series by Neeb. Incredibly clean. Perhaps one of the most one-sided series we've seen all weekend long. I really thought, Jeff, genuinely thought, not cast through hype, that this was going to be one hell of a series. And I really think that SortOf was going to give Neeb a good run for his money. But, you know, SortOf just got surprised those first two games by the build, by the attacks, the timings of Neeb. And here in game number 3, you know, the execution just wasn't there. The Lings being trapped by the stasis. An excellent SimCity, of course, by Neeb on the north side there.
Everything.
My pylons have never shot that many times.
Of course not. I've seen many an Artosis pylon go down in that kind of situation. But Neeb, I mean, I'll tell you what, it's round of 16. We're in the second stop of WCS. There's only 4. These guys are locking up. The absolute top echelon is really making themselves known. And Ting Neeb here, our WCS Austin champion, doing it again. Going over to Smix. I want to hear from this guy over there at that stage.
Thank you very much, In Control. Congratulations, Neeb. That was a really, really dominant series from you, 3-0. Yesterday, I was asking you about your thoughts on PvZ, and you talked about how, you know, it is a little bit in a harder state maybe for some players, and some of that has to do with the maps. But when you look at this series, you wouldn't think that at all. It was just so dominant. So what do you think went right for you? Is it just everything?
Yeah, I think I prepared a lot for this series, honestly, like the entire day. I don't really like playing at the end, but it's definitely an advantage is that I can just prepare all day. And I played a bunch of custom games, figured out a bunch of strategies to use. Yeah, it worked out well.
When it comes to preparing for a series like this, were you just preparing strategies for PvZ in general, knowing that you're going to be facing a lot of Zerg players later on, or was it specific to SortOf?
It was some of just general PvZ stuff, but some things I looked at SortOf's match history and looked at some things that he did. Like I knew he went Overlord speed a lot. I knew he went for a later hatchery than most people, so I could pile and block it, that kind of stuff.
And I know personally for yourself, you were practicing in Korea for a really long time. What is it like for you now? I'm not sure in your current state where you are right now, and what does practice look like for the current #1 ranked WCS player? I think a lot of people are curious.
Since I haven't been doing too well recently, like the past few weeks, I've been playing just a ton of games every day, maybe like 40, just non-stop games, pretty much. Hopefully, maybe at this tournament I can do good again.
When you say non-stop games on the ladder, do you mean EU ladder?
Korean ladder.
Still playing on the Korean ladder. And of course, up next in the round of 8, you're going to be playing either Major or Bly. Now, you've played both of these players quite a bit. I was looking at the records, and you're actually undefeated against both players in 2017. So are you you don't really care who you face, or is there a preference here?
I think Major's a little bit harder, but I mean, PvZ is hard, and PvT is kind of Protoss favorite, so it kind of evens out, I guess.
Well, congratulations again. Always good to see you advance forward in these tournaments. But as I mentioned, we have one match left. It will be Special versus Bly. So for now, let's head back to Nathanias.
Thank you very much, Smix. Neeb carries the USA flag all the way to sweet, glorious victory here in WCS Jönköping. The timing attacks, the adepts, all over the place. I'm joined by 2 very excited temporary Americans cheering for our favorite Protoss.
Yeah, there's only one thing we can say, really, and that is Neeb. Well played.
Forward.
The champion, back in form. It's just, I can't believe he sit there with a straight face and he's going, I haven't been doing so well lately. Literally the champion of the last WCS tournament. Okay.
Yeah. What a terrible year. What an awful year. He's like, yeah, I'm at the
so
second
horrible.
circuit event.
Already qualified for the global finals. Like, geez, so
Hey,
rough.
he lost in the finals of Challenger. He's not doing so well.
That's where you know your career tanks, when you lose in the finals of something, right?
I guess.
Poor guy.
If you're Neeb.
Yeah, that's the standard.
He's very, yeah, I mean,
that's the standard he set, though, right?
Yeah, and I mean, in all seriousness, pro gamers are very hard on themselves. It's not always about the money, it's about the glory and them playing as perfect as they could possibly be. So
Yeah, we have an updated bracket for you guys, so we can see the round of 16 is just about done. Smix was mentioning that final match special will go up against Bly to complete today's show. Some Terran versus Zerg action between two players that actually have pretty unique styles, and the winner of that will face off against Neeb. Looking at this top 8, it is so nice. That variety is great. Great European representation, great American representation.
yeah, I mean, with the amount of Zergs that people are looking at the round of 16, like, oh man, there's going to be a lot of Zergs in
The
those
bracket
rounds.
helped a lot with
yeah,
that.
No,
Yeah.
it did for sure. But it's also the Zergs have been beaten down a little bit. Like
Yep.
Namshar went down and
The two
SortOf just went
Protoss.
down. Yeah,
The two Protoss.
And now two Terrans?
Nurtio as well.
And if I look at that last match, I mean, good for Bly, made it to top 16, but this is usually where the road ends here for him, especially since he's playing a very special player.
That's right, and that is coming up next. The final match of the night is upon us. It is going to be special versus Bly. You're watching WCS Jönköping. Don't go anywhere.